Imagine this, the whole world knows him as Bruno Mars. A golden voice, electrifying stages, and songs that never fail to make us fall in love. But what if that name isn't who he truly is? Welcome to the Bumars channel, where facts, mysteries, and hidden truths from the entertainment world are finally revealed. Today, we're about to uncover something that has been hidden for years. An identity deliberately concealed. A name almost never spoken. Who is the real person behind the global icon Bruno Mars? And why did he choose to hide his true identity from the world? Before we go deeper, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe because what you're about to hear might change the way you see him forever. The world knows him as perfection. The name Bruno Mars sounds like a symbol of global success, memorable, powerful, and full of charisma. But behind that name lies a story far more complex than simple branding. A name that was never his at birth, an identity slowly left behind, and a question that still lingers to this day: does the world truly know who he really is? The name Peter Gene Hernandez is rarely mentioned in the spotlight, as if it were just a shadow of the past, intentionally buried deep. Yet, that is where everything began. Born into a modest but deeply musical family, Peter grew up in an environment unlike most. From a very young age, he was already performing on stage. Even before the world knew him, he was impersonating legends like Elvis Presley with striking accuracy. But behind all of that, there was something often overlooked. He wasn't just imitating a style, he was learning how to become someone else. And maybe that's where it all started. The journey to fame was never as easy as it seemed on screen. Behind his smile and stage energy, there was pressure, slowly shaping him into Bruno Mars, not Peter. The music industry is not always welcoming to those who come with an identity that feels too different. The name Hernandez, for some in the industry back then, was seen as a barrier. Too ethnic, too specific, too difficult to market globally. And at that moment, a major decision was made. Was it a personal choice? Or a pressure he couldn't avoid? No one truly knows. The name Bruno reportedly came from a childhood nickname. He was known as a strong, confident kid, often compared to a wrestler seen on television. Meanwhile, Mars remains more mysterious. Why Mars? Was it a symbol of ambition, a desire to be out of this world, or simply a unique-sounding name? Or was there another reason never revealed? As time went on, that name replaced everything. Peter slowly disappeared from public view. Interviews, performances, awards, all carried the same identity, Bruno Mars, and the world accepted it without question. Or, at least, that's what it seemed on the surface. But some observers began to question something deeper. Why would an artist with such a strong cultural background choose to distance himself from his real identity? Why was the story of Peter never fully embraced as part of his narrative? And perhaps most intriguing of all, why does he rarely speak in depth about his past? Is there something intentionally hidden? Or is this all part of an incredibly smart strategy? In several past interviews, Bruno Mars hinted that he had to work twice as hard to be accepted. There was pressure, unseen, yet very real. Pressure to fit in. Pressure to look the part. Pressure to become what the industry wanted him to be. And perhaps that name was the key that opened doors once tightly shut. But there is a consequence rarely discussed. When someone leaves behind their real name, do they also leave behind a part of themselves? This question becomes even more relevant when we look at how Bruno Mars has built his image. Almost no major controversies, no excessive drama, and very limited access to his private life. He appears almost too perfect, but is that perfection real? Or is it a role played exceptionally well? Some fans have started digging deeper. They found fragments of his past rarely discussed. Old photos, childhood performances, stories from people who knew him before fame. And from there, theories began to grow. Some believe the name change wasn't just a choice, it was a necessity. Others say the industry shaped him from the very beginning. And some argue that Bruno Mars is the best version of Peter, not a replacement, but an evolution. Still, one thing cannot be ignored. Why does the world know Bruno more than Peter? Is it because Bruno is more marketable? Or because Peter was never given the chance to be known? When we look at his career, everything appears like a flawless success story. Hit songs, prestigious awards, and global influence beyond measure. But behind it all lies a journey of identity rarely discussed. A journey that may be filled with inner conflict to become someone loved by the world, but possibly at the cost of losing part of yourself. And at this point, the question is no longer about name. It's about identity, about who he really is when the stage lights go off. Is he still Bruno Mars? Or does he return to being Peter Gene Hernandez? Or perhaps he is no longer either? The entertainment world often creates illusions. The person we see on screen doesn't always reflect the full reality. And in this case, the difference between a real name and a stage name may only be the surface of something much deeper. A mystery that has never truly been answered. A story still unfolding. And an identity that may never be fully revealed. Now, after knowing all this, it's hard not to wonder, do we really know Bruno Mars? Or have we only ever known the version he chose to show us? And if one day he decides to return to his real name, will the world still love him the same way? Or will everything change? If one day Bruno Mars reveals all the hidden truths about his identity and fully returns to being Peter Gene Hernandez, do you think it would make fans love him even more, or would it shatter the perfect image he has built all this time? And what makes this question even more unsettling is the silence that surrounds it. There are no clear answers, no direct confirmations, only fragments, moments where Bruno Mars seems to step slightly out of character, as if the person behind the name briefly resurfaces. A tone in his voice during interviews, a subtle shift in expression when his past is mentioned. Small details that most people overlook, but for some, they feel like clues. Because no matter how polished the image is, no matter how carefully crafted the persona appears, the truth has a way of slipping through. And perhaps that's what keeps fans so deeply intrigued. Is Bruno Mars truly just a stage name? Or has it become something more? Something that has completely replaced Peter Gene Hernandez over time? There's a possibility that the line between the two is no longer clear. That the transformation wasn't just professional, but personal. That somewhere along the journey, the identity he created for the world slowly became the only version of himself he could be. And if that's true, then the real mystery isn't why he changed his name. It's whether he can ever go back. Because in an industry that thrives on image, perfection, and consistency, revealing too much truth can be just as dangerous as hiding it. So now, the question shifts once again, not just about who he was, but about who he is willing to become in the future. If one day Bruno Mars stands on stage and honestly says, "That's not my name," and reintroduces himself as Peter Gene Hernandez, would that become the most honest moment in his career, or the beginning of everything we believed in falling apart?